Welcome to 1111. I have Jay here with me today. Hey, Jay.
Hey man, how's it going?
Good. Good to have you. Excited to talk about inner work with you today. And on that note, what does inner work mean for you? And how do you stay committed to it?
So inner work, I guess it means something different for everyone. For me, it really meant taking a deep dive and trying to pull the facade off and really find myself and find what I felt was the best version of me, which I think is dynamic because that is something that's constantly evolving at all times, whether we realize it or not. I guess there are a few people that are static, but I've just never really understood that staying committed was tough. It really was. I think what kept me, no, I know what kept me committed is knowing this was something I needed to do, despite the fact that it was very uncomfortable. My pride was the fact that I did a phenomenal job of making people feel like they knew me when they had no idea. That was my talent. That was, for all intents and purposes, how I self-identified, and really taking this mask off and doing this inner work was something that I really stumbled upon by a chance meeting with Dominic, who led our mastermind, and he had a unique ability to help to really break down those walls while still allowing me to feel that I had the safety wall I needed. So he really did it little by little. And I was able to stay committed because I was fortunate and blessed to be part of a group of men who, even if they didn't understood it, they made space for me being exactly who I am. They allowed me to express my discomfort, and they worked through it with me.
Mhm.
And it was definitely not smooth. It had a lot of bumps and bruises. I started this journey, said really through Dominic, and I knew it was the right thing when someone that I had no idea Dominic knew or joined the journey with us. Two completely different parts of my world that collided. My friend Marcus, who actually was the catalyst, and I don't even know that he knows this, but he was the catalyst to my inner work beginnings. God, now 12, 13 years ago.
Mhm.
And so he had, little by little, he made me start questioning some of that identity that wasn't really healthy. And then by fortune, he was on this journey, which sounds amazing because it was, until it wasn't, when some circumstances led him to feel that he had to depart. There's always a blessing in everything, in that when he left, I was kind of at the red pill, blue pill. You know, do I leave because the one person I really felt safest with, besides Dom, was gone? Or do I stick it out and continue on the journey? And that's what I did.
Mhm. It's such a challenge for most men to get vulnerable and to really trust the group. And sometimes it's even understanding how to process what's inside of you. You wore this identity for so long of everything's okay. And to be able to, over the years, take that down through Dom and Marcus and the group here in the mastermind. What do you think helped you through those years as A, just becoming aware that you had that? And then B, does anything come to mind on certain situations that really helped you to gain more trust in the group, to become more vulnerable?
Yeah, so what made me know that I needed to continue on is most of my friends had no idea how many times I sat in my apartment and cried at night because I was just unhappy, despite the fact that from the outside looking in, nothing could be much better. And there was an emptiness there that I accepted as my lot in life. And I fought Probably a solid 2.5 years. I put up a good game. As one of our members, Lance, would say, I would actually say I mailed in what looked like an A, but it was really a B plus at best. And I finally got called out on it. And Dom said, "Dude, I feel like you really do a great job of making us think you've opened up, and and you haven't." And he said, "And that makes me sad because I think we just want to know you." And I'm not really great at moderation. It's one way or the other. So I said, "Fine, you guys want in?" I said, "You know what I've been dealing with? My brother found out I slept with his wife." And I go, and I found out from my 19-year-old niece. That's how I found this out. So you guys wanted in to see what's going on? That's what I'm fucking dealing with. And the look was, well, holy shit, you definitely just let us in there. That's a lot to process. And that was kind of the beginning of really starting to break things down. To the credit of every man in that group, not one man judged me. Most of the sentiment was like, dude, we're so sorry that you didn't feel you could carry that to us. That's a heavy burden to walk around with on a daily basis without any support.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so that's really where I say the work really started getting done. That was also the same weekend. It was an immersion weekend, and I choke up a little bit when I think of that weekend because on the way there, it was in the Poconos, and on the way there, I stopped to see my college roommate, who was my fraternity brother, who, after finally finding himself, found out that he had brain cancer just as he was graduating with his degree in secondary education. And I stopped to see him. We had a great day. He laughed at how I was dressed. And he goes, his daughters were gone. He goes, "We got to get a picture." He goes, "Because my daughter just loves your sense of style." And that was the last time, and I think in a way I kind of knew it. That was the last time I saw him mostly who he was. And, I went, as I drove from his house to the cabin that we stayed at, a lot of things started to be in perspective because I realized I wasn't going to grow old with him. This is a friend who, when I moved from Indianapolis to King of Prussia, Pennsylvania, and another friend flaked on helping me move, this is the guy who said, "What's your ETA?" And he was at my new apartment with breakfast. And he's like, "We're going to get this done." And he's like, he had work that day. He goes, "They can wait. You got to get this moved in." And I realized how grateful I was for him. And on the way there, he said, "I'm glad you're doing this. You need this." And, that whole weekend put a lot of things in perspective. And I really think that's when all the work started actually taking effect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's incredible the amount of work you can do virtual, but does it hold any weight till you get together in person and really connect?
Yeah, absolutely. Men, especially, I would say I'm Gen X. Gen X in proceeding, bonding and really being there for each other and vulnerability is still by and large seen as weird and unnecessary and usually done over beer and calling each other names. But what I also have found out that a lot of friends of mine get curious about this because they really long for being able to be vulnerable and to have their friends there to support them. They just don't know how to do it because we weren't taught it as children.
Yeah. The whole holding space thing that we learned is so powerful. Over the last 4 or 5 years or longer, since maybe you and Marcus started having these conversations, what do you think is one or two things that you've learned through inner work that you now applied to your life that made a difference?
Choose you. And it's not being selfish. At the end of the day, you can't pour from an empty cup. The friends who don't truly see you, and the friends who like a version of you that no longer fits yourself. I jokingly said, I think it was on a LinkedIn post, and I was talking about letting go and showing my old school card. I said, if the captain could let go, if Tennille could let go of the captain, you can let go. Ike let go of Tina. Tina let go of Ike. You can let go. Cher let go of Sonny. When someone doesn't serve you and they're wanting to hold you to an old version of you, let them go. You can look back fondly while looking ahead with joy and promise for what's to come. That's one. And never allow yourself to get, never allow yourself to believe that you do not deserve to be loved. Everyone deserves to be loved. And if the people who were supposed to teach you that didn't, it could be because they did the best they had with the tools that they had, or they just might not have been good people. But at some point, you get to make a choice on whether to continue that on or to do the work to heal yourself.
That's great advice. That self-acceptance, does that a moment in your life stand out of when self-acceptance, when you felt that inside of really accepting who you are and bringing that self-love to yourself? Does any moment stand out for you where that happened and that was a big transition after that?
Yep. Yes. August 5th, 2024. I was at a conference and I was going to be a speaker. It was a day after my 47th birthday. It was in Palm Springs. It was hot as shit. And it was a conference of people in financial services, but we were allowed to be casual. So I had on a short sleeve button down and my very favoriteest pair of the Nobos 5-inch inseam shorts. Was talking to someone. We were at lunch, the buffet, and the woman across the buffet from me said, she goes, "If I had legs like yours, I'd wear those shorts every day." And she's like, "It'd be 2 degrees outside. I wear them every day." And I laughed and I thanked her and I said, I always hated my legs. It was like I inherited them from my grandmother. I was like, most guys have like chicken legs. And, I inherited mine from my grandmother. And I said, I've actually been debating, like, I'm supposed to speak after lunch. And I'm like, I need to wolf this down so that I can go change into some pants and something more appropriate to speak in. And she goes, no, 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 don't do that. She goes, I guarantee you everyone here will love it if you speak just as you are. It's the first time in my career that someone told me to be just who I am. Well, I shouldn't say the first time. One of the first times. And probably, actually, when I think about it, this is the second time that I was told to be just who I am. And I didn't know how much I needed that. I wasn't going to go to that conference, even though I was a speaker. I was looking for any excuse out. When I left for it, I didn't even jump in a shower until I think it was like an hour and 15 minutes before my flight was to depart. That's when I jumped in the shower. And it was because a friend of mine who's known me since I was 17 was texting with her. And she said, I don't know what it is. I don't know anything about this conference. I don't know who's attending. But something is just telling me that if you don't go, you're going to regret it. I feel like you have to go to this conference. And that really started the change of I am good enough exactly as I am.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Thank you.
That's awesome, Jay.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. The feelings that go through you when you have those epiphany moments is just unbelievable.
Yeah.
Of like, wow, why didn't I love myself before? And then all of a sudden this moment comes about in your situation, right? And I think a lot of mine too is like a moment. I'm like, whoa, really feeling the love inside right now that I didn't know why I didn't give myself earlier.
It's a range. It starts off with there's anger for everything you've gone through in the past. and then it goes into resentment, and then forgiveness, and then you really just start to think about your journey and where it brought you. And if you're lucky and if you're smart enough to move forward, you start to find a place of gratitude because you realize how strong you were to have survived others telling you what you weren't.
Mm-hmm.
Because not everybody does.
If you had to go back to your 21, 22-year-old self, what do you think you would tell that younger Jay? Now that you
You,
know what you know,
you are enough.
you are enough. Hmm.
It's just as simple as that. You are enough.
I like it. How do you think he would respond back then if you were in front of him?
They would have a hard time believing it, but I would hope that he could reverse course and believe that and find the humor in it. You can't see this, but I proudly wear this Ken hat. 'Cause I found it last September, and I think about how much fun in my last job. I was in a team meeting, I remember, and my corporate headshot was the first time I ever saw one. I really liked it. And I remember I was at a conference, and they had a photographer, and the conference was for an organization called Association for Wholesaling Diversity. And it's actually geared specifically towards developing Black financial services wholesalers because we typically were excluded from that profession. And they had a photographer who specialized in photographing people of color. And so I was one of the first people to get my headshot taken. And I was talking to him. He said, he's like, "You're photogenic. This is going to be easy." I told him, I said, "Well, both my parents were photographers. So I was like, you pull out a camera, I know everything to do right away." And he clicked like three of them. And he was like, he goes, "I could have stopped at the first one." And I really liked it. And I remember the first team meeting, and it was a senior vice president. We were getting on Zoom and it still had my picture. And she actually stopped to say, "Can we all observe Jay's glamour shot?" And of course there's always things like that. And it was meant to be humorous, but there was always a dig behind it. And so many people would always talk about how meticulous I am in my appearance, but again, backhanded compliments. So I saw this hat and I said, "You know what? I'm going to get that. You're going to call me a Ken doll? Then damn it, I'm going to own it." I cannot tell you how many people, women and men, see this hat and they're like, "Dude, I love that hat." I've seen some guys who are like, you would think that they would see this and make fun of me and be like, "Dude, where did you get that hat?" And I'm like, "You're not going to believe this." So I was like, I forgot my running shorts on a work trip. I saw a Ross dress for less. I ran in there. This thing was $1.95. And I was like, "Yep, gotta have it."
That's excellent.
And it's now part of my superpower because I've decided when people make fun of me, I'm going to fucking own it. And I'm going to take it and turn it around and make it realize that you can't, your jabs can't stop me unless I allow them to.
It's a good reframe. It's a good mentality for sure. Is there anything else as we close out this that sticks out that you may want to share?
The journey is not always easy. Matter of fact, it usually isn't. It's just like all the cliches. You're at the gym. There's discomfort to grow there. Growth, and when you're in the thick of it, sucks at times. But you have to remember that to get to it, you've got to go through it. And then eventually, the strong will make it and they get to look back and smile on their journey because now they're at the destination. And if you're really smart, you'll realize that at some point it's going to happen again, but it's worth it.
That's excellent. That's a good one to end on.
Yeah.
Cool. I appreciate Jay a
I
lot.
appreciate you, man. It's great to see your handsome face.
You too, man. You too, Ken. I like it.
Remember, you are Knuff.
It's beautiful. Hey, thanks for all the insights today, Jay. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Tony. I love that you're doing this, man. I'm glad I was able to help support you.
Appreciate it.